Okay, let's talk about Level 2 from February 2022. Results out last week. I waited for a while before I put the video up. Registration deadlines aren't till next week, till May 3rd, so there's still time to think about what you want to do. But let's look at the choices that we have for those that did not pass versus those that passed and what your pathway looks like. Let's start with did not pass. And a common question is, should I register for August? And it really depends on how close you were. The closer you were to the MPS, well, that's not a start over situation. You were close. So that is more of a review, and you look at the sections where you did the lowest in, and maybe those sections are a redo. And you have time, you can do it nice and slow while maintaining your review. And I think you're set up okay for August. So if you are closer to the MPS, registration ends May 3rd. From the time that you're viewing this, if you look at the calendar, that gives you 7 days. The exam windows August 30th to September 3rd gives you 125 days. I'm not taking off 28 days for review there because you're primarily almost in review mode all the way through. If there are some sections where you did lower than you would have liked to, but for some reason you find them challenging sections, avail yourself of the tutoring sessions on our site. 65 Canadian for tutoring sessions. If you put that in US dollar terms, that's under $50 US. And these are charter holders, recent graduates out of level 3 that are charter holders working in their particular discipline. So that could help you out. But I see no reason why you would want to delay longer than that. You are close. The one thing that I would caveat that with is it is summer. You are giving up some of your summer. And I don't expect market volatility to die down over the course of the summer. So if you have a job that requires all hands on deck when volatility is high, you may not have the time that you'd like to put to it, or you may just be, depending on what you do in your job, emotionally exhausted by the time the weekend comes, because the market will drain your emotions if you have to work with it on a daily basis. So you have that going on in the background. But if that doesn't bother you, and you're close, listen, I see no reason why you wouldn't do August. The only reason you might want to consider November is early registration is still open for November, so it saves you $300 US if you're insensitive to the registration fee, or your employer is paying the registration fee. Then take a run at August. The further you are from the MPS, then the more I'm going to recommend November, because you'll probably have more sections. Anything under 50%, that 50% line, anything at or under that 50% line, I think is a do-over. In other words, you're just starting from scratch again and relearning it because you've missed quite a lot of the connecting material. Which makes the questions difficult to understand because you might be missing those sentences in between. I think it's a do-over. You got till May the 3rd to decide on that. That's 7 days from now. Kind of a nice thing here. You spend $700, but you save $300. Here you're going to spend $1,000 to get it done for August. Here you're only spending $700. The exam window is November 22nd to the 26th. You're buying yourself about another 75 days here. You're at 209 days. And again, it's not a complete redo from scratch because you've already been through it. So there are some sections that'll be a redo. Others will that you've gotten over 70% on. Those are general review. You'll continually review them over time. You can't just leave them. So that one I have to leave to you, because only you can tell how you feel about it. You have lives, you have commitments, you have jobs, or maybe some of you don't have jobs yet. So you know how much time you have available, and you know how far away from the MPS you were. You know how you feel about it. So you can sort of decide on your own which way you want to go. For those that are subscribers, you had a subscription on our site. Once you're logged in, click on the menu option for My Account. On the when it goes to the next screen, you'll see another list of menu items. Click on One Fee to Pass. It's second from the bottom. Click on that, and it'll tell you what you need to do to select your subscription for your next exam seating. And it is, as it says, 1 fee to pass, so you don't pay again. Okay, let's move on to pass. You're heading to level 3. The only level 3 this year is August. That's a tight window, 125 days. If you haven't touched any level 3 content yet, I don't recommend it. Again, you have the backdrop of the summer and the market volatility that I expect will last well into July and August, well into the next earnings season, once we get more clarity on where the central bank is going. So if those things pull at you, summer weekends and volatility during the week, that's going to be a really tight window, not a real recommendation. We'll go to the next screen where you can see what 2023 looks like. But if you are going to make a run for August, perhaps you used a tapering strategy where after you finished your level 2 exam, you picked up a section of level 3, and maybe you have one of the whole sections behind you at this point and you think you can make it. Registration ends May 3rd. Again, that's 7 days away. Exam window is August 3rd to September 6th, so it's still the same 125 days that we had over here for level 2. The level 3 exams happen concurrently. Again, it wouldn't be my recommendation at this point, only because there's so much other things going on, and if you haven't already opened anything on level 3, it's not a problem to wait for February for the 2023 level 3. For aspiring asset managers, the CFA has two really broad career tracks, right? There's the analyst career track, and then there is the asset manager career track. For aspiring asset managers, I strongly recommend that you look at FRM, the financial risk manager. Level 1, the next, I'm not counting the August exam window because it's just too short a time period. I'm just going to go right to the November exam window here. November 5th to the 18th. Early registration ends July 31st. Registration opens May 1st. So you can, in 5 days, you can register for this one. Registration ends July 31st. I put it here because if you're done level 2, you're done about 75% of level 1. There's not that much more to learn. You're done about 75% of it. The overlap is fairly strong. It has 4 sections: foundations of risk management. This is really conceptual. Quantitative analysis. If you've done level 1 and level 2 CFA, you've seen probably 90% of what you're going to see in quantitative analysis. There's a few extra models in the FRM that you don't really see in CFA. Financial markets and products, that should be a general review for you. You've already done valuation, a whole bunch of derivative valuations at level 2, valuations and risk models. So, you're almost there. You're 75% there. So if you were thinking of adding FRM to your repertoire, you don't feel like doing level 3 in August, and you're not too sure when you want to do level 3 next year, whether you're going to do the February or whether you're going to wait till next August, you can slide a level 1 FRM right in there without much effort, because after level 2, the overlap is so big, you're almost there. So why not add it? Let's go to the next screen. We'll look at what our options are for 2023. Actually, before I leave the screen, I should explain why I'm even putting FRM down. We don't offer FRM ourselves. However, as of April 1st, we were acquired by a larger financial education company called Serify, and I'll write that down for you. Some of you may already know this because it was announced on LinkedIn. I had those press releases on LinkedIn. I put some videos up on YouTube. Everybody on our site was notified with a message within the system. But for those of you watching who weren't our subscribers, who don't know, we're now part of a larger company. Another product within that company is Bionic Turtle. And it's spelled just like it sounds, Bionic Turtle. I still have to ask him, how come the turtle is bionic? I never really asked him that. Of all the conversations we had, I never said, why is your turtle bionic? But there it is, Bionic Turtle, which we think is one of the best FRM providers out there. Previous to being acquired, when anyone ever asked us, if we did FRM, we said no, but we would always refer them to Bionic Turtle because I've seen his product and it's good. So it was easy to refer. So being that we're in the same family now, being that we're part of the same company now, it only makes sense to start saying, listen, we can talk about FRM because it is a natural progression to what you're doing. And if you are, thinking that you want to be an asset manager, I've always said, it's hard to manage your return. It's a lot easier to manage your risk. Risk manager, right? Okay, other options here. 2023, level 3 is offered in February and in August. So if you have decided, which I hope you have, that the August window is just too tight based on where you are now, there is no November window for level 3 for 2022. You're looking at 2023. The earliest one is February. Opens in about 6 weeks, which is sometime end of May, beginning of June. I did have the actual date. I forgot what it was. I could dive into my trash in my mail, in my Gmail, and try to find the email to find out what the dates were. And spend some time, or I could just say, in about 6 weeks. I'll tell you, if you ever want to save yourself a lot of time and you need an exact number, try one of these, and you'll save yourself a ton of time. And just say, it's about $10. There you go. It's about 6 weeks. So about 6 weeks, roughly. As we get closer, I'll have a firmer date, and I'll announce it either through LinkedIn on our site or, the basis of another video. And then you have August. I don't know when that's going to open for registration. So the earliest registration for 2023 is in about 6 weeks, and it is for the February exam. So that gives you a number of options. You have the August 2022 level 3. You have the November 2022 level 1 FRM, or you have the February 2023 level 3. You can also look at the applied options course that is available on the site. This right now, it's still at a very low introductory price because I'm building it out. There's a lot more to build out, and it takes time to build this stuff out, and there's iterations of this. So it's $275 Canadian right now. And anybody who has purchased, and it's been quite successful so far, so I'm leaning into it and putting more resources into it because it's being well received. Access is to December 31st, 2024. That's 3 years of access. So anybody who has a subscription to the Applied Options series, there's a bunch of stuff up for options. That's not it, in case you're thinking, that there's quite a bit there, but that's nowhere even near what it's going to look like when it's complete. As I keep adding more and more content, the price will go up. Each time I put in a new module, the price will go up each time, but access will still be to 2024. So if somebody who picks it up in July, well, that's 2.5 years of access. Somebody who picks it up in December, well, it's 2 years of access, but it'll be more than $275 at that point because all of this will be added. So here's what's in there so far. We have our basic strategies, and our basic strategies are centered around single options. Whether you're long or short a call or put, what are the possibilities that you can do with that? Sometimes it's, there's a lot of decisions when you buy a call. What's the strike price? How long to expiration? You may think it's, well, I know how to buy a call. There's other things to think about, because when you buy a call, you're taking on a certain risk exposure. Maybe you only want a certain type of risk exposure and want to minimize some of the others. Options have risk exposures in terms of the Greeks, delta, gamma, theta, vega. So we want to make sure that we're getting just the risk exposures we want while minimizing others. So, maybe you don't quite know everything you think you would know about simply buying a call. Then we have a bunch of strategies that are designed to generate income in a portfolio, a bunch of strategies that are directional in nature, and a bunch of strategies that take advantage of volatility when volatility shows up. So that's in there now. What is being added this year, July and August, we will be adding case studies. And this will be across a number of sectors of the S&P, so that it's not all concentrated in just one type of stock like technology or like industrials, but it'll have a mix of a whole bunch of different sectors. And you'll be given the general scenario of the economy. You'll be given links to certain economic indicators, so that we know what's going on in the economy. We'll be given rates in terms of what the yield curve looks like, what the bond market is doing, and a particular company, some information about the company, some kind of financials for the company, and then you have to determine whether or not that particular target would be suitable for an income strategy, a directional strategy, or volatility strategy. Why you think that is the case, and how you would set up that trade in terms of what options would you use, what strikes would you use, what part of the distribution are you trying to get to, and you just answer a number of questions. Because if you're trying to do this on your own, it is the process you would go through. So when I look at a particular stock, I don't look at a stock and say income, income, income. So if I'm an income trader, not every stock is suitable for an income strategy. Some are not. And not every stock is suitable for a directional strategy. So these case studies will use actual data at that time, actual companies that actually are trading, so that you can then design a strategy based on what that is. And after you're done, then you can review what the, I'll put a case study analysis behind it as well, which means here's what we're looking for, here are the signals, here's how this one sets up. August to October, I'm going to do a macro analysis overlay, which helps you pick which sector you want to be in. It's a top-down approach that starts at the level of the economy and brings you down to the level of the sector, and even maybe some of the sub-industries within the sector, so that you end up at an ETF with good liquid options, so that you can determine how you want to play that ETF, what direction you want to play. If this sector has particularly high or low volatility, you might want a volatility strategy, or maybe some of the components within here set themselves up nice for income strategies. November to December, we're going to get more into portfolio construction and IPS for the retail trader. The CFA process you go through, and even the FRM process you go through, is really aimed for an institutional investor. A lot of that is overkill and doesn't really transfer well to the small portfolio. Many small portfolios are not well diversified because they simply don't have the resources to be well diversified. Well, how do you manage a portfolio that is in essence a risky portfolio because it's concentrated? And there are ways to lower the risk of the positions you take, or take on risk profiles in a diversified way, even though you don't have the finances to diversify it. But first, you have to have rules. You have to have some rules by which you live by. And well, what kind of rules are there? You can stay out of a lot of trouble with rules up front. That's front-end loaded risk management. By putting it into you will write your own personal IPS based on what it is you're trying to get done. And then we'll look at how you would construct a portfolio in a very generic sense. And then maybe we'll use a case study and take a number of stocks, perhaps a few ETFs, and say, okay, well, let's see, how can we construct a portfolio that meets these criteria? So that's coming for 2022. Once these are added, the 275 does increase for new people coming in. But if you're already in, you have access all the way to 2024. It's not like I'm going to say, hey guys, y'all owe me another $50 now. You're in, right? Once we get into 2023, the July-August period for 2023, I will do bottom-up analysis. Is, okay, maybe you don't like to start at the level of the economy and work your way down. Maybe you say, listen, I know the autonomous vehicle sector is going to be hot. How do I pick something in that sector? Well, that's really bottom up. You've hit on a theme. You know what sector you want to be in, or what industry or sub-industry you want to be in. Who are the players in that industry, and how do we pick one? So we'll do a bottom-up analysis there. And then September to October, we're going to introduce futures and options on futures. Because some things you can get better exposure to by using futures. The big one is bonds, the treasury bonds. If you have a view on interest rates, the futures for bonds are a lot easier and a lot quicker to play than trying to actually buy the bond. Well, if we're going to be in futures and we're going to deal with risk management, we're going to need options, because we got to determine what part of that distribution we don't want, or maybe we only want a little piece of that distribution. So rather than using ETFs that track bonds, and by the way, if you do follow the things I say, TLT, that has been one beautiful payoff this year. I sold in the money calls on that one, and that is part of our basic strategy. By having getting a short position by selling in the money calls. You will learn that one in there. We'll introduce futures and options on futures. Futures are tough because futures cover a bunch of different commodities as well. Well, commodities, you really have to have an understanding of the cycle of those commodities, especially when you start getting into things like grains, livestock. You also have to, when we're getting into oil, understand the difference between winter and summer, and what that means for refineries and demand for oil. The seasonality of demand for it, the shape of the futures curve, what that means. So there's a lot here, and it can get quite detailed. So you can see that this applied options series, it started with options, but eventually this word will be dropped and it will just be called an applied series. Because I thought of introducing a number of courses. One on options, one on futures, one on macro, like top down, one on bottom up, and I thought, well, let's just put it all into one and just call it an applied series. So this will morph into an applied series, which I will continually just add to. Also, I do, every week I do a market update. That's free on YouTube. But every so often I will do another applied series for CFA candidates. Whatever applied series I do for CFA candidates, I don't put on YouTube. I put it in the particular section that it applies to. In the applied series, you would still continue to get access to those applied series that I do for the CFA candidates. You'd still continue to get access to those. So if this sounds like something interesting that you would like to add, it's $275 Canadian now. It will increase as I add all these. The price will increase. It will end somewhere around $750 Canadian when we're done, because it will cover. It will be a complete retail investor course from top to bottom. It'll cover as many of the asset classes as most retail investors would use. So there you go. You have your pathway if you've passed or did not pass level 2. Your previous screen had your pathway of what you want to do. Consider FRM as an addition to CFA if you are leaning towards asset management. If you find that the retail side, what I call entrepreneurial investing, if you find that that side is a pull for you as well, While CFA and FRM are institutional, it's a great place to start because you start with these institutional strategies and then you bring them down to the retail investor. It'll give you a better understanding of how they translate down to the retail investor. So if it is something that you think that you want to do, I do recommend jumping into the FRM. Bionic Turtle is very good. And we'll leave it there.